Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, ladies. Happy Monday and happy Monday to you, all of you out there in viewership land, or Facebook land, or YouTube land. We are here on the New You Nation to have some real conversations around real topics, everyday topics that we deal with as women, and we are going to get started in a minute. I'm here with my co-host. We're going to take a opportunity to introduce ourselves and start off as we normally do, which is sharing something that we are grateful for. And I'll just go in the order that I see the little squares. So Netta, you are first.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Manetta Fields. I am the owner of Holistically Motivated LLC. I am grateful that my needs are provided for. I'm just grateful to have what I need. There's so many people that don't and can't say that. Grateful for the simple things in life.
Mm. All right, Sheila.
I am Sheila Isom. I am an insurance claims professional, and I am also an independent consultant for Color Street. I sell nail polish strips, and I am grateful for the medical professionals who can give you hope at the end of the day. Actually, the people that you don't think can give you hope when you're in a medical crisis is someone that, or the people that I'm grateful for.
Nice. Regina.
Hello, my name is Regina Booker. I am the owner of Season and Fabulous. I advocate for women, um, health, well, basically for health retreats and being the best that you can be for 50 plus and over. It's never too late. And I am grateful for a sane mind after
Yeah.
5.
And Miss Simone.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Simone Simon. I'm the owner of Simone Simon Public Relations, a media agency, and also the owner of Makeup on the Move. I can't even think right now, a beauty delivery company, and we deliver beauty supply products in 2 hours or less. I am grateful for progress and small wins. It's great to have a goal and to be able to look back at the small steps that you've taken, because I know sometimes you may see the bigger picture and wonder how you're going to get there, but seeing your small wins and progress amount to steps that take you towards your goal.
Nice. And last but not least, I am Theodora Carter. I am a human resources professional. I own a life coaching business where I help women navigate life. And on the HR consultant side, I help small businesses manage their HR resources as an external partner. And I'm grateful for a few things. I'm grateful for being here today. I'm grateful that I got an opportunity to work out before I got on this this show. So I won't be doing a late workout as I normally am. And I am grateful for Miss Simone, who just did some work for me and on the PR side. And so, I'm looking forward to making some of the changes she suggested for me. So, yeah, that's
Grateful for you too. Absolutely.
yeah. And so tonight we're going to talk about how not to reach your breaking point. And I think this came about maybe about 2 or 3 weeks ago. We were talking, and I think Regina, you mentioned, just like knowing when you're tired, right? Like when are you tired? And so I guess, it's probably a great conversation, especially it's funny, right? Because we're only in the second, what you call it, month of the year, but it feels like the year has been going on much longer. right? Because I feel like I got off to a really fast start, right? And you have so many things going on, as I'm sure all of you have as well. And so I guess, it is really a good topic because first of all, how do you know when you're tired? How do you know when you're reaching your breaking point? Like, are there signs that, like, what goes on with you when you're reaching your breaking point?
I think probably I would say, you may be in denial. I'm looking at it as, especially with women playing that superwoman role and, constantly multitasking. So it's got to be something else because you got too much to get done. You have too many people that you need to take care of. So it's going to start with the denial. And before it hits you mentally, it will probably hit you physically and then emotionally. And then that mentality will kick in that, wait a minute, I've got to stop and think because I can't do this anymore. I can't go on like this anymore. My body is telling me something. My feelings are telling me something. And now my head is telling me something. I think that's probably where we start because you don't want to think that this is it, that you have reached this point before you've accomplished everything that you want, but not realizing that list, as you check one thing off, you add two more, right? So that list is evergreen. It just keeps going and going and going. And at some point, your body and your mind is telling you that you can't continue like that.
Absolutely.
Good point. I would say ignoring the signs is something that we get really good at as women. Not that it's a good thing for us, but we just kind of feel like if we don't show up, then who's going to do it? Denial is definitely not the way to go. So generally, personally, what happens is I get a physical response. And knowing that the immune system is compromised when we're in high stress levels, you start to feel a little something, whether it's a cold or just extreme exhaustion or even GI responses. Some people have that, just my stomach is off and I don't know why. And so from there, you start to not feel your best. So you don't show up as your best to all of those you're supposed to be serving. It can show up as being short tempered, or being withdrawn. It's just an important part for us to be aware of what our bodies are telling us, because if you're feeling something physically, it's usually deeper than what is presenting itself.
I think that it's also the things that are around you or you are the epicenter of start to crumble because you can't apply your best. And it's just a chain reaction to every small thing in your life. And you notice that anytime I take on something, it doesn't really have the best outcome. And then also the simple things that you need to do or take pleasure in doing, when that opportunity presents itself, it's always met with not the best attitude because you're just tired. So you can't enjoy it. You can't take a second to take a minute for yourself. And you almost lose yourself in that way.
Yeah, I agree, Simone. That would be what I would say. And also, sometimes I'm hard headed, so God has to stop me. So when God stops me before I stop myself, and then I know. And I was thinking about this. A very tragic thing happened and made me have to sit and think. And then I knew that I had reached my breaking point, not necessarily by the tragic thing, but the things in it. So I had to redirect a lot of things. So then I really got deep into saying no, and then deep into knowing when to when to go and when to stop. And so that's what I do now. Like, if I'm feeling some type of way, or I can't go on, or I'm taking on too much, it's just a simple no. At this time, I can't do it. And so sometimes tragedy, not necessarily, or something dramatic, or a sickness, or something, that's something that, God stops you before you burn your own self out and crash.
You're muted, Theo.
I think one of the things that came into mind as you guys were talking was, right, how much of it is about the expectations that we have for ourselves too, right? Like, do we place, these expectations on ourselves that are more than other people do, right? Like, I mean, we all strive to do whatever we do in excellence, right? But at what point do you have to take a step back and say, okay, let me define excellence, right? So how much of it is sometimes also the overwhelm we create for ourselves, right? Trying to be everything to everybody, trying to, move on. Like for me, I find when I am intentional, when I'm focused, I have the goals, I'm like, okay, because I'm good, but when I'm just moving willy-nilly, right, and I'm just picking up things, and also when I'm not respecting the boundaries that I set for myself, right? So it's not even that people are disrespecting my boundaries, like I'm not respecting them because I'm picking up a phone call that I really didn't have to pick up, right? And then I'm on that call for like an hour more because I don't want to say to the person, you know what, I gotta go, right? Because I know that is not a conversation that's really productive, right? And so how many of you find yourself in those spaces where you kind of like, wait a minute, I'm a little overwhelmed, but I did this to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think if we as women are honest, we can all raise our hands on that one.
And so how do you shift that? Like what are some of the things you use to shift to get back to where you're grounded?
A schedule.
Mm-hmm.
A schedule, and it includes rest time.
Mm-hmm.
That's important.
I had to schedule rest time because, if you see an open space on the schedule, oh, well, I can certainly fit that in. And then that comes with something else, and it never really turns out the way you expected it to. So it's longer. So, just scheduling in rest time for me has been huge.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask the question, how does who we grew up with influence our thought process behind accomplishing, being busy? Does that have an impact, or what are your thoughts on that? I know mine, but I'm curious.
I think it can have two impacts. I think it could have a positive impact in the sense of someone's a hard worker, so it encourages you to work harder, or it could have a negative impact in the sense of they were a very hard worker, so now you are as well. But also it can take the extreme of someone seeing a hard worker and say, I just want to make enough money so I can pay my bills and eat food and maybe go on vacation. So sometimes it has an adverse effect as well.
I will say that honestly, it impacted the type of worker I became, because my mom was like the worker bee, right? So my mom was a certified nursing assistant. She worked at a hospital for 25 years. And my mom went to work. Like my mom was like, she was the person that went to work on her day off, right? Like they call her, like she was always working. So I do recognize that when I started working, I was the girl that hardly ever called out sick. Like there was one time I went to work sick and my boss sent me home, right? Because that was just what I grew up seeing, right? I saw my mother who went to work, right? And she worked on the day she was scheduled to work. She worked if they called her in to do overtime, like she worked, And so I do think that sometimes even subconsciously you pick up those habits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then me being at work, right? I was the one that was always, because I like to learn and I'm a team player. I was always the one like, hey, do you need help with this? If I didn't have work, right? And so then I became the go-to person, right? So everybody would be like, oh, go to Theo, because either she's gonna find the answer, either she's gonna do it, she's gonna help you do it, right? And so I created an environment that was overwhelming for me because everybody came to me, right? So that's a really good question, because I did have to at some point shift that. Like I had to recognize that and be like, okay, you can be the person, you cannot be the person that everybody's coming to. But also, one of my mentors said something to me that was also very good for me, because I would do stuff because I liked it to be done a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my mentors was like, everybody's not going to do things the way you would do it. You have to allow people to just do it their way. It's going to get done, right? It may not get done the way you would have got it done, but it's going to get done, right? And so I literally have those conversations with myself sometimes, even now, when I have the thought process like, oh, I'll just do it, right, for somebody. I have to be like, nope, stop. They got it.
Right.
Mhm. And I think for me, both my parents were, workers, so they were responsible workers. But me being the oldest, I was always the responsible ones. So I had to take care of my brothers. Um, and so that just led on into life, the responsible one, So that carries on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My father, he was, oh, I've been at the job 36
Mhm.
years and I've never called in sick. And, those things that you hear over the years and you see it, experience it as a child, you watch it, oh man, that must be the standard. That's
Mhm.
kind of what you're supposed to do because it's my dad and he's an excellent person. He's an excellent provider. Things work out for him. So that's the pattern, right? That's
Mhm.
what you got to do.
Yeah.
And I took that mindset on. And as you said, Theo, and after learning my strengths, I understand that input and learner are those qualities that make you be the resource for others. That's something that's just part of who you are. But there has to be a balance with that because then you become the one that's doing everybody else's work too. So
Absolutely.
there's a whole learning process. This is about growth and development, right?
Mhm.
As we live and as we experience things, we learn how to fall back, when to let somebody else learn. Because
Mhm.
if we're doing everything, who are we teaching?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep. And one of the things that I want to hone on to is something that you said, Netta, which is making sure you take time for yourself, right? And
Mhm.
it's so easily said, right? And not always easy to do. But um I think we all have managed to do it, right? Like I know that I am really intentional, especially working a full-time job, running two businesses, right? I literally have days where I'm like, okay, this day from this time, like I'm not doing anything, right? I'm not taking a client call. I'm not, doing any work. Like this is my time to do whatever I'm gonna do. Whether it's like yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday I went to Stretch Lab, right? It's this place
Mhm.
that can stretch you,
Mhm.
right? And I got a gift card, right, for Christmas. And the gift card was just sitting here, and I'm like, okay, how long are you gonna let this gift card sit here, right? And then I was like, you know what? So Sunday is usually my day when I do nothing, right? Like if I do anything, it might be go to brunch with somebody, but it really is a day where I do nothing. That is the day where I say no work is done, nothing gets done. If I'm usually going to watch stuff on demand because I don't watch TV usually during the week, because that's another thing that steals time, right? And then creates overwhelm. But how do you guys make sure that you create space and time for yourself?
I do time blocking.
I think as millennial, that we think of it like the reward for doing good work is
Mm,
more work,
mm,
and thinking about, do we have that capacity to do this really excellent work and get more work, or can we provide satisfactory work and still be recognized? Because there is a culture called quiet quitting, where it is, you're not quitting your job, but you're giving them satisfactory work, but not going above and beyond, because you do know you may not get a raise, which is likely some cases in corporate America. And also, the reward for doing good work is more work. So you're trying to elevate yourself and potentially get a raise by doing great work, but you're subsequently getting burnt out by getting more work.
Mm,
So realizing when you can take things on, and knowing when knowing the situations that deserve your best energy versus knowing the situations that just need your energy and not necessarily your best.
mm.
Mm.
I like that.
yeah. Yeah. Thinking about there was a time when you knew that if you put in the extra work, right, that there was an ultimate reward for it, whether it was a promotion or a 2-digit raise, and maybe a 5-figure bonus, right? And those times have changed. And just like Simone was saying, it almost feels like you're being rewarded with more work.
Mm-hmm.
Do great work, you get more work. And it's a vicious cycle. And then from there, then you're realizing that, wait a minute, I'm still at the same place. The recognition is lacking. The raises aren't plentiful. So why am I doing this? And then you begin to say to yourself, well, am I being appreciated, and not realizing too that you need to turn that around and saying, well, am I appreciating myself? Because now I'm getting to a point where it's the quid pro quo in the truest sense. I'm going to give you what you give me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But then you have to try to figure out, is that working to your detriment? How is that affecting you to the point where you have to pull yourself back and realize, hey, if I continue to do this, because maybe you are just giving what you're getting, but are you satisfied with that?
Mm,
And how is that making you feel? Because that may not be the individual that you are, and it may bother you. So how do you get to the point where you say, before I say to myself, I can't take this anymore, I have to go in a different direction?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you get to that point in your personal life, right? Because we're talking about it like from a work standpoint, but how many of us in our personal lives have put this expectation on ourselves to do so much, right, for everybody else, whether it's if you have children or you have a husband, and whatever, and to the point where you get to the point where you're just so exhausted and you feel like, I can't take it anymore, right? And so at what point do you say, how do I love these people, right, and take care of these people without sacrificing myself?
Well, for me, you guys know that I love to walk, and right now I'm dying because it's so not walkable anywhere. Because it's and that's where I get my peace. When I'm so wound up, I take a good walk outside. My neighborhood is beautiful. I can walk and walk and walk and walk, and that's release. So right now with the weather, and you just brought it up, and I was like, why am I feeling like this? I'm not able to. I don't really like to walk in the gym. I mean, walking on and listening to the YouTube and all, that's great, but it doesn't give me the same effect as outside. So even going to the gym, so I'm missing that piece. So I don't know how to revise that right now. But when the weather breaks, that is when I'm so wound up, and then I can come back and it rejuvenates me.
And so hearing you say that, right? Because it is important to know the warning signs, right? You need to know what brings you to that space, right? So right? Like you were like, oh man, aha moment. I might be feeling the way I'm feeling because I can't do something that I usually do to take care of myself, which is walk, right? So what is something else that you can do, right? In the cold, which people in New York right now probably are like, is she really talking about this cold? Because they got 9-degree weather. But so what are some other things you can do? Like one of the things like right now on my kitchen table, I have a puzzle. So every now and then I'll just get up from what I'm doing and I'll walk over to the table and I'll start doing a puzzle. Because I learned that when I was at work, that was something I did. I kept a puzzle in my office. So when I needed to take a break, I would get up and I would do a puzzle. And the other people in the office would start coming in and they would come in and they do a piece of the puzzle. So now it's something I do at home, right? So I have a puzzle that right now I'm working on, and it's kind of like when I feel like I'm spiraling out, or for me, I get distracted from what I'm doing. That's how I know when I'm overwhelmed, right? Like I'm like doing all this other stuff that I shouldn't be doing, right? And so I'll go like, let me go do this puzzle so I can get refocused. So what are some of the things that you guys do to get yourself refocused?
For me, I think it first starts with my mindset, in the sense of knowing I will have to find calm in the chaos when I put myself first, because I'm sure that sometimes in some situations that some people will lose out on me helping them, or my energy going towards something that they may need, and they may not feel the best about that. And you have to just sit in the decision that you made and not let that affect your calmness, in the sense of you told someone no, and so now you have that time because you said no, but now that whole time you're thinking about how you upset that person. So you need to find the calm that within the chaos that may happen when you tell someone no or you set that boundary, because if you don't find that calmness, then you might as well have just did what you said you weren't going to do, because you're thinking about it and you're thinking like, oh, I said no, and that's not right. And instead of just reflecting and taking a step back and refocusing.
So how do you find the calm in the chaos? Like, what are some of the things you do?
I just, well, you know what? I just sit in, not necessarily in silence, but just maybe like watch a TikTok or just something to just break my mind from whatever it is. Like, so if I'm working on maybe a proposal or a project and I'm working on it for several days in a row or several hours in a row, if I find myself getting frustrated, I will just close my laptop and just maybe go check the mail, go do just something else to just break my mind out of that pattern for that moment, and then come back to it and say, okay, so where did we go wrong and how can we break it down into smaller steps that aren't overwhelming?
So for me, I love music, praise and worship especially.
Yes.
So sometimes, I don't know if you all watched the BB and CC Winans versus Mary Mary when they did that whole thing. It was all the classics and it was the best time. So I can go and pull that up on Spotify, hop on that bike, my stationary bike, and get my praise on that bike. And by the time I'm done, it's like, all right, what's next? I got this. So for me, it's really changing how I feel.
And it's not being guilty about it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. We are queens of guilt, man.
Right?
Listen, let that thing go. That person has moved on and forgot that you told them no. And if they haven't, that's something they need to work through.
Don't let
My
it kill your
time is
calmness.
nobody's in control of my time but me. And remember the three businesses we talked about on one of the other shows: my business, their business, and God's business.
Yeah.
When you're outside of your business, know that anxiety and overwhelm is on the way.
Mm.
Because you can't control anybody else's business or response.
And I think that's an important thing, right? Because one of the questions I start asking myself now is, okay, what can you control in this situation?
Mhm.
Right? And what can't you control, right? And so that the things that you can't control, although it may not be easy at first, you eventually get to the point where it's easy for you to be like, I can't control this. I'm just gonna let it go, right? And then focus on the things that you can control.
Mhm.
Because I think that's another thing that gets in the way, right? Of along with the guilt, is that we sit and we ponder and we get so frustrated and focused on things that we can't control, right? And it then, like, controlling time. We have all of these little smart devices, right? Use your smart device. I have do not disturb on my phone from 6 a.m. to about 9 a.m. So if someone calls me or texts me, the alert comes through, but I don't hear it, right? Because that is my do not disturb time. That's the time when, and then also some of my friends know that. So I have friends who actually sometimes will text me and say, "Are you busy? Can you talk?" That's another thing. Like I've gotten people used to, in some cases, like checking in first before they call, especially if it's, because you're doing so much. So how do you manage your time? Because Netta, you said you're a scheduler, right? Sheila, you got a lot going on. You do a vending at least twice a month. You're vending somewhere, right?
Yeah, and I think with that too, one of the things that allow me to get back is trying to get organized. Because sometimes I can be disorganized, and I'm okay with it. I've learned not to beat myself up over those things. But then when I think about how I want my day to go, then that's when I sit back and say, okay, let's map out what you need to do. And that's from start to finish. What are you taking with you out the house? What time are you leaving? How soon do you want to get there? How early? Because it could be the difference between me getting a table at the front of the house versus getting a table at the back of the house, right? It could be the difference just getting a parking space. So, then just making sure that I plan out from start to finish how I want my day to go, and then I can rest peacefully.
So let's talk about one that's a big one for me. Y'all gonna help me. Sleep.
You said, what did you say?
How do you make sleep a priority?
I'm listening too.
How many hours? How many hours of sleep do you realistically get a night?
4 or 5.
That's worse than me. All right.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I have not been able to really on a consistent basis sleep through the night for decades, right? As a matter of fact, like I'm probably running off of 4 hours of sleep.
Now, Netta's going to tell us about sleeping.
I know. I see her perking up.
I know.
That's why I'm
diagnosing us right
this
now.
is real. This is real.
I see her. Her antennas are going up.
Yeah.
I mean, Sheila, you said you haven't slept for decades. I know for me, it's because I'm a pitter-patterer. Late at night, I find things that I need to do that don't really make time, right?
Get that second wind at 9 o'clock. And because like even last night, it was just like, I knew I needed to get into the office early because we had new employees starting. I had to block off a portion of my day, right, for the new employees. And we were going to greet them with some pastries and stuff. And I knew I had to get the pastries, and I'm setting all of that up. And then all of a sudden it was like, well, hey, I'm going to cook some dinner because I don't do that very often, right? And then of course, as you're cooking, and it's like, well, I need to clean this and I need to do that. And then, when dinner was done, I needed to scrub. And then I had my Lifetime channel TV on, and then let me go back in there and finish the dishes. And then I need to put this away. And so now it's like, oh, okay, well, that's all done. Well, guess what? Oh, since I know I have to get an early start, let me go and get all my clothes out. Right. So got my clothes out. And then by the time it turned around, it was like, well, heck, I might as well look, I'm going to clip my toenails right now. I know it's midnight, but why not? And it's like, you need to go to sleep because you want to get up early. And then what happens? I mean, thankfully, I don't need an alarm clock anymore. And that was the thing, that's one of the things I got from COVID. I don't need an alarm clock, but it's still a matter of whether or not I'm getting up out of bed. And then I have that, oh, snap moment. You only have X amount of time now to get dressed and get out of the house. Because then I fool myself because I've done everything the night before, right? So I bought myself some time. Right now, it's like, oh shoot, I missed the stocks. The Dow drop. I missed the weather report. Oh, what was that news story? Let me rewind it. Meanwhile, now that's instead of me now taking my time getting to work, now I'm rushing. But so sleep is something, and I love sleep. I could sleep, I don't need to get up I love sleep, but I don't do my body justice because I don't go to sleep like I should.
Go ahead, Simone, because then Netta's going to tell us Netta's going to talk to us about sleep. And then I feel a challenge coming on.
I can definitely relate. And I'm that person that as soon as I get into bed, I'm going to change my life. You know what? I'm going to become a motivational speaker. I'm going to work on this tomorrow. So I'm going to get up at 5 and I'm going to get on the treadmill, and they have breakfast at 7. And then from this time to that 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 time, and then my brain just goes into overload. And I think that it truly is an excitement or nervous energy that needs to be channeled into something else, whether that's reading, whether that's doing something else, but taking that energy and just channeling it into something else. Like Theo said, maybe a puzzle or maybe reading or something like that. But something that I did find very helpful for me as a person who tosses and turns during sleep is a weighted blanket. It is absolutely amazing. Amazing, 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 amazing. It feels like someone is just wrapped on you and it's super tight. I highly encourage everyone to buy one and try one and see how you feel.
Because I think most women, I would guarantee if we were to look at statistics, which Netta probably has, that most women struggle with sleep and get less than 6 hours of sleep.
Yeah, I toss and turn all night. And I wake up through the night.
Same.
And I say, oh, the Lord is speaking. No, like the Lord is not speaking to me every night at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I'm bad. I'll get up and get a snack.
That is not conducive.
I'll go get some pretzels, some graham crackers. It's a mess.
Oh my God. Help us.
Okay, first thing is in the line of sleep hygiene.
Yes.
Turning things off.
Never. No.
See? Turning things off by a certain time.
It's me.
So if, let's say you're a late night person, 11 o'clock is your bedtime. By 9:30, you need to not be looking at any screens.
That's like right now.
So by 9:30, you should be, if you go to bed at 11, by 9:30, you should be kind of weaning yourself off of
those things, because whether you're actually watching them or not, it's going in. And then you've got to decompress from all that you allowed in to signal to your body it's time to stop. The signals are all off because there's no start and stop time. It's just go. That's one of the things. The other thing I would say is, of course, I can suggest blends of things to diffuse in your space before bedtime. So you're creating, your brain is going to say, oh, that's the sleep smell. I need to start calming down, because there are also things that can calm head chatter. Because y'all talking about, I'm thinking about this and I'm solving the world's problems and all. There are things that literally your body can respond to slow that process down. If the brain is always on, you can't expect, okay, now brain, you turn off. But I'm gonna look at this first. You know,
that's me. That's me.
There's a person that said, I'm just gonna watch one episode of the Golden Girls.
I'm just gonna watch 5 minutes of TikTok that turns into an hour.
Nope. So you've got to have hard and fast rules for yourself until it becomes a habit. You know that it takes a while to create a new habit. If it's important enough to you, you'll do it. Some people say I'm interested. Some people say I'm committed. Which are you?
So I'm kind of thinking there's a challenge coming. Like, I'm kind of thinking that we need to do some type of, I don't know, it was a weekend, whatever, where we practice some of this stuff.
And you go small in, right? You go small in. Pick one thing, fix that, and then add on to it. You habit stack in a good way, because what's ultimately happening is we're aging ourselves prematurely.
That's true.
That's true.
And is that what you want? I mean, at this point, that's what we're choosing.
Absolutely. I think I also, for me, I think that I also get very influenced from TikTok on, so I think we all know hustle culture and, you know, burnout culture, but now there's another way to kind of burn yourself out in the name of self-care, because they have this new trend, if you'd want to say, which is called my 5 to 9 before my 9 to 5. And it's people, primarily women, their morning routine from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. and they're going to the gym, they're journaling, they're working, they're doing all this stuff, they're making a full breakfast. And then I'm like, as soon as I go lay down, you know, I'm going to have a 5 to 9. And 5 o'clock comes and goes every time, okay?
That's after the graham crackers and the pretzels and the walk around the house 3 times. You haven't slept.
I know. I need my pretzels.
Listen, and that the algorithm will hold you hostage, right?
Yes.
Because you see that one, it's like, oh, look, hey, I'm going to learn about universal life insurance, or I'm going to learn about flipping a house, or I'm going to learn how to install a kitchen sink. And then after that, every video you see, whether it's on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, is going to have those topics. And then what ends up happening is now you're scrolling a little bit longer. And then whether it's true or false, you know, now you're like, oh, I've got a new bit of information about this. And then that's when that 5 to 9 starts. So yes.
Because then you have to research this. Now you have to research this information.
Oh yes. And please, it's the thing with TikTok is that that's how they get you with the productivity. And the thing is that I saw a video of, funny enough, is that you have to get off the app to apply these methods and do these things. There's so many things about sleep hygiene and getting better sleep and things like that. And I'm like, yeah, tell me more. And my eyes are probably like bloodshot red at 2 a.m. Like, how could I sleep better? Tell me. And it's like, you got to get off. Yes. Whatever the thing is, you have to get off.
You have to unplug. So here's the challenge. If you 2 hours before your bedtime, unplug. Nope. It's an addiction.
It is. No, absolutely. fully aware I haven't.
hard and fast, and then not saying don't replace it with something, but you're going to replace it with something that's conducive to sleep.
I feel like
Reading
my
a
hands
book.
wouldn't know what to do. You know, like I honestly, I feel like my hands would. That's like the honest truth.
They're going to hold a book. They're going to hold the. You know, y'all read the words, you're going to sleep. So, and that's the trick of the enemy. But we ain't gonna mess with that.
I think also a really great tip that I find helps me fall asleep and stay asleep. If you have an iPhone, there's an app that comes on the phone called Insight Timer, and it has a plethora of meditation sounds, sleep sounds, journal sounds, all different types of music and prompts for you to meditate and relax. And they have sleep music that I listen to, and it's like a deep sleep. And you can have music that's like 20 minutes long, 5 minutes long, 3 hours long. I put on a 10-minute one and I wake up, I'm like, wow, oh, it's morning time. Like it will keep you asleep a good amount of time.
But then you have the phone.
No, I flip it over and I flip it over. I turn it on and then I flip
back.
So no, I put it over.
The phone needs to be in the bathroom somewhere, not
it's so
well. First of all, we haven't even gotten to the fact that there are emissions that are coming from here.
Oh boy.
With the Wi-Fi, with all, I mean, we're not even talking about what could be happening otherwise. We're just talking basics here. I'm not gonna take y'all all the way in because it's like I ain't even ready. So
my phone's right on my pillow next to me.
One of my girlfriends does not have a television in her bedroom, right? And I will say probably years ago, I actually tried it. I actually was like, okay, I'm going to move this little television. Because she was like, the only reason you need a television in your room is, she said, you don't need it. The only thing you should be doing when you in your bedroom is sleeping or having sex. That was her thing, right? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this TV out and see how it works. And honestly, for a little while it worked, but then the devices come in, right? So you go from the TV's not here, but now I'm gonna watch all these because that's where I get sucked in. Because now you can watch full movies on YouTube.
Oh yes,
right. And so it's really like I've really been working at that. Though I will say, you know, this year as the year started, I have gotten better at going to laying down, going to sleep, and not because I usually need to watch an episode of The Golden Girls or Columbo or Monk, right? Like my old time shows. But now I'm like, okay, just lay down and go to sleep.
This is going to help you not reach that breaking point so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
This is back to the top of the conversation. It's not always exterior issues.
Mm-hmm. But it's true because I mean I have a whole list, right? Like I got a whole list of things that I'm gonna read at the end that they talk about how to keep you from reaching your breaking point, and that's why I brought it up. That's one of the things. It's like make sleep a priority.
Mm-hmm. It has to be. Your body, your cells repair during sleep. So if you're not allowing your body to repair, what are you doing? You're aiding yourself in breakdown or premature aging.
And it probably affects your memory too.
It does. It impacts so many things. Not to mention really your immune system, which is huge right now. Mm-hmm. This is not the time to have an immune system on crutches. It's just not.
I think the number one answer and the only answer is applying the things that we already know. I think that's the only answer because we know that we need to eat better to feel better. So we can have our best energy and be our best selves, getting sleep. And these are things, drink our water, exercise daily, practice meditation, get in the word. But the real answer are those things, but it's applying it. And like you said, was Are you committed or are you
Or
inspired
interested.
or interested?
Interested or committed. Think about
Interested
that
in
in terms of a relationship. Which one would you want?
That's
Good
how I've been
analogy.
looking at things.
Okay.
Right. But it's a relationship with yourself now that we're talking.
Exactly. But that's the thing. Yeah, that's what I'm saying though. But if you think about it, right? Like when
one
you're,
of the most
when you're
important
thinking about a relationship with someone else, you're like, oh, you know, I'm committed versus being interested. But how many times do we apply that to ourselves? Right.
Absolutely.
And if just doing that probably will help you with knowing when you're reaching your breaking point.
And also to always remind yourself that it's good to give to the world, but you can't give yourself crumbs that you have left from giving, because you deserve, if not the whole pie, but at least a slice.
Absolutely. And it's really just breaking habits that we've created for ourselves, stories that we've created for ourselves. I
Yes.
can't go to bed because I haven't done this, and this. Well, try it and see. You really can go lay down. You really can.
9:30, put the phone away. I'm spiraling right now.
But I literally did, like today, I literally thought about that, right? I'm like, okay, I didn't get my workout in this morning, right? And I was like, we have the show tonight. And so I was like, all right, how are you going to make sure you get your workout in? Because my goal tonight is because usually when we get off, right, I find something else to do, right? But my goal this morning was like, okay, when we finish this show tonight, I'm shutting down, right? And I'm going to go read this book because I need to catch up on some chapters in it, and I'm reading with a friend. And that was my goal. And so now, like, you kind of just reinforced, right, me doing what I said I was going to do, because, you know, I would have not did it.
We got to be committed. If this is the end goal, you know, if this is really what you want, the healthiest, most vibrant version of yourself, it requires you to make some changes. Otherwise, you're doing the same thing, but you're not going to get a different result.
But I think that's important as well, right? Because the other thing is, what are the things that you do to make sure you shift your mindset, right? So now, right, is it even just saying, like, I'm thinking, I'll be like, okay, Theo, are you committed or are you interested, right? Like, now that's going to play in my head, right?
Yes.
So what are the mindset shifts also that we have to make, right? Like, you know, Simone talked about some about, you know, when you say no and you feel guilty, how do you shift your mind from not feeling that way, right? So now, like, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, so now I'm going to probably have to say to myself, when I'm faced with something, okay, are you interested or are you really committed? Like, even with those people who are trying to lose weight, right? Because that's a big one, right? Are you interested or are you committed when you see that nice piece of chocolate cake, right? That looks so good. Are you interested or are you committed, right? So, so that's good stuff.
So it brought us back to full circle. So it goes back to Simone brought it back, saying that we started out saying all these things, but basically, are we in it to win it? Really?
And also just knowing, right? The signs.
Right.
Right. What are the things? Like you mentioned earlier, you really hit it on the head, right? You were like, okay, now I see why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, because I'm not able to do something that I'm used to being able to do.
And it's a relationship with yourself. When we hit relationship, and Sheila said, not with anyone else, but with yourself. And not taking the crumbs, you know, everything we said. So we always, as women, put ourselves on the back burner and putting yourself first and not wanting to put the phone down. That's still, even though we're harming ourselves, we getting up, you know, walking around, eating. I do that too.
Yeah.
At 3 o'clock, go to the refrigerator. What's in there to eat?
And then you've awakened that GI tract that's got us all of those gastric fluids to start a digestive process that's not supposed to
You
happen.
know, and I don't really be hungry. It's just it's just something to do. Don't even be hungry.
It's just something to do.
Yeah, something to do.
Let me check on the man that's in the refrigerator, right? Is there a man in the refrigerator that really turns on the light?
Mine is tired. I know that.
You say, it's you again?
Ain't nothing doing here.
I'm trying to get some sleep, and now you come opening up the door.
Well, maybe when you get up during the night, you can say, all right, I'm going to write a message to somebody I love. You're going to take the focus off of you and put it on someone else. So we're doing this. Our church has started with, it's called Mean Monday, where you send a message to one person to tell them how much they mean to you.
Mm.
So find a way, take your mind off of you, and put it on maybe serving someone in that moment, not necessarily to neglect yourself or, not do self-care, but replace it with something meaningful. Because the meaningless snacking, it's not that you need it. Mm-hmm. It's just a habit that's been formed. So replace it with something that's more outside of yourself in terms of serving. Not that you got to call and be on the phone with people and take all the appointments, not that, but sending someone a kind note and schedule it to go to them at 9 a.m. If you up at 3, something like that can help us to shift. That's the mindset shift. It takes it from where we're going down the rabbit hole and bringing it back into focus of, hey, how can I use this time better?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, which is important, right? Because first, like we talked about, right? First of all, you got to know when you're reaching it, right? Then you got to go through the whole process of, because the other thing is you want to make sure because for most people, the impact is to your physical health. Like you get to the point where you can't do anything, right? You get sick. So you definitely want to make sure you know the signs before you get to that point, right? But I will also say, I think also just making the gradual changes, right? Like, the minute you said we needed to like do the 2 hours before, inside, a lot of us went like,
you had a physical response.
Right? We had a physical response. Right. And so the first thing in my mind, right, that I'm going to say loud was, I was like, well, maybe I got to start out with 1 hour, right? Like, 20 minutes, and so I think also recognizing that it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Because I know I'm speaking for all of us. Like when you said that, everybody had like a physical response, even if it didn't show.
Right. And even with the next thing that came to my mind was, I can't do that. Like I'm clutching the pearls. I can't do that. 2 hours. Oh, what am I supposed to do? Sleep. And then getting back to what Simone was saying, but I know that she's right. I know what I'm supposed to do. But I'm convincing myself that I can't do that. But then, when I look at the long-term picture of it, it adds to everything that could lead me just short of getting to my breaking point. Because now I'm tired when I wake up in the morning, then I'm going to hit some kind of traffic. Right. And then I'm going to get into the office and I'm going to first read an email that is going to make me start saying words under my breath. Right. And then somebody's going to come to me with something that I think that they should already know. And then the phone starts ringing. And then I'm looking at the deliverables that I have that I haven't even gotten to and trying to balance everything out. And then I'm hungry, right? Because now that elicits a whole different set of responses, right? And pretzels just won't do. But I've got a meeting right? And I haven't had my coffee yet, and I have to go to the bathroom, and I'm getting stopped in the hallway, and then somebody's reminding me of something, and I'm thinking, well, that's only going to take me a few minutes to do, so let me go and do that. So now it's just like now right, am pulling myself in 10 different directions to the point where I can't breathe. And if I change just one simple habit, that could change the trajectory of the direction that I'm heading in.
Wow.
Great
So
summary. Those are great closing
yeah,
words.
I was gonna say this was a great conversation. It's like 9:01, we're over. So
Always.
I mean, this was a great, and that was a great summary. So I'm gonna say, Sheila, were those your final words?
Those are my final words. Those final words just make me tired. I think I might be able to sleep that well tonight.
That was good stuff because you just kind of talk yourself into doing what you know you're supposed to be doing. Right. But you also just helped a lot of people out here that kind of felt the same way when Netta said that, because you weren't the only one that clutched your pearls. People watching clutch their pearls, and the people that are going to watch this later are going to clutch their pearls. So you just helped them and freed them. So Netta, what would you say, as we prepare to close out?
Well, I'll just say, based on what Sheila summarized, you cannot serve if you're deficient. Not to your best. What she described was somebody that showed up deficient, but still was calling upon everything in them to keep going. Just consider starting your cup full in the morning versus empty.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and a lot of us don't start our cups full because we're tired, because we only got 4 hours of sleep.
And those pretzels and those graham crackers is like keeping people awake. They're so good.
All right, so Simone, what would be your last words?
My last words are: recognize the signals for you and implement the solutions that you already know.
Okay.
Also, find the calmness in the chaos of choosing yourself may cause.
Okay. Regina?
Well, everyone has said everything. So, just again, I guess don't start from an empty cup,
So I'm gonna end by reading, something I found, like a list of how to keep from reaching your breaking point. And I'm just gonna challenge anyone that's listening now, or anyone that may listen to this later, to choose just one thing to change, right? And so one of the things it says, acknowledge that there is a steamroller and that you're driving it, right? So kind of what Shirley just summed up, right? The steamroller is you. Like, you done put all this stuff on you, right? So acknowledge that there's a steamroller, but you've created the situation. Learn to read the warning signs. That's something we all talked about, right? Like, we know what the warning signs are. Check in with your body, how you're feeling. Make sleep a priority. So tonight I will shut down an hour before. I'm going to commit. Are you committed or are you interested? I'm committed, so I'm going to shut down all the devices an hour before bedtime. Give yourself transition time. And that's the transition time, right? Slow everything down at least for a few days. So some of us may not be able to slow things down for a few days, but we should at least have a day, right, where we're able to like slow stuff down. And ask for help. Okay. Right, the big one. So those are just some of the things. And then I would just say what everyone else said, like Sheila summed it up well, but I would say, the key is to really make sure you know what to do, not to reach your breaking point, so that you can take care of you, right? So with that, I'm going to say thank you all for joining. And for those of you who will watch this later, we hope that you glean something from it that will be helpful for you. We appreciate you allowing us to come into your device, your iPad, your phone, however you were viewing this. And we will see you next Monday at 8 p.m. on the New You Nation Network, the Women to Women show, where we believe that truth plus transparency equals healing. Have a great night and a wonderful rest of the week.
Good
Bye.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.